Hello, and welcome to my 4th Model Trains episode. In this episode, we're going to be trying to clean up my O-scale diesel locomotive so that hopefully it's not going to make sparks and it will actually run consistently. And then we're going to be trying to get my steam locomotive, which is currently inside this box, back up and running so it can match my other steam locomotive.
The first engine's on the tracks. Currently, it's just doing that. It had moved in the previous model train episode. Seems not to want to, though. So now I'll get the steam locomotive on the tracks. And now we have the other engine on the tracks. So it produces a light, but it doesn't make any sounds at all. Like, that's full light, but it doesn't do anything else. So I think I'll probably at least try to take apart the blue diesel and clean it. And also show you a new tool I got. So I was looking through this diesel locomotive. The shell is off over there. And yes, you're not actually in the camera holder right now to where you can see my beautiful face. But I was trying to get the motor to turn, which is this right here that I have my finger on, when I found that it had a spring in it. No wonder it wouldn't run. It had a spring in it. Why in the world did it have a spring? Sorry, by the way, for my voice getting high, but I think I found out why it wasn't moving.
So after I got this spring out, which after looking at the diesel I suspect was probably part of the suspension for the back truck, but I'm pretty sure I broke that when I first got it out of its box from my uncle when he gave it to me. But anyways, after I got that out, I set it down on the tracks, and miraculously it did work. I was trying out to get this light back here to work. It didn't work, but I have hopes. But then I also noticed it was still producing a few sparks, not nearly as many as it had though. So I'm going to introduce you to my Dremel tool. Now this is something that I have had since we bought it from a model train auction. But because I didn't have my model trains at that time, we thought about using it for the Scouting Pinewood Derby to make cars and different things. Because I'm currently in Scouts BSA, and then my sibling is there in Cub Scouts, and so she's made a car, and then we figured we would use the Dremel tool for the cars. We haven't. So I've reclaimed it, and here I am able to use it on my model trains.
We're now down by the tracks, and after doing a little bit more work on the engine, it does this, which, as I said in the last clip, it did, but it also stays going more consistently, and it doesn't produce sparks at lower speeds. But if I make it go faster, you can see it still does produce sparks, which is unfortunate. And it also occasionally stops in sections of the track that aren't as well cleaned, and I'll have to mess with those later. But that works well enough for the state. So now I'm going to try to work on my steam locomotive, which I have only taken apart once, and that was clean.
So in between clips, I decided to switch from my diesel locomotive which I did say was relatively working, over to my steam locomotive. I have two main things to say about it. First of all, it was a pain to find all of the itty-bitty screws to get it into how it is now. Here's the shell, which alone is still like 2 pounds heavy. And then also, this is the main frame. I've been doing... Oh yeah, and the second thing is, the motor does actually work, regardless of what we found. I actually took it all the way apart, cleaned a couple things, and then I tested it with a couple wires, and I found that the motor will spin! Which, like, that's the greatest achievement of all, because that means if I get the rest of it, the wiring and the brushes and everything else, it will work! Which, yes, I'm using hand movements because that's how excited I am. But that's just amazing, because if I do things and I mess around with a couple more things, putting them back and unscrewing them, then I might be able to show you it working on the tracks. So I'm going to go mess with it a little bit and see what I can do, and then I'll bring you guys back in.
So I just tested it out on the track after doing a couple screws, and watch! Ha ha! We are successful! Look at that! I think I'm going to take it back over, of course, to my desk and finish putting it back together and do some more cleaning. But we're successful!
So now that I've figured out how to put the shell back on, and then tested it and got it working with the shell on, I'm now going to be able to clean up the wheels, which are right here. I did also reattach the front truck because they're part of the wheels and it needs cleaning. But I also want to clean up these contacts and hopefully make them work better, so that then the locomotive doesn't produce sparks on the train tracks. So I'm going to take the wheel arrangement apart, kind of, and clean it.
Now with the shell on and some maintenance, we can finally see the steam locomotive run. Watch. Ta-da! We can see it's a steam locomotive. Ta-da! Isn't that amazing? I think so. I'm actually going to go grab its tender so that it can actually pull a tender, look like a locomotive, and maybe even pull a couple of my train cars, like my light-up caboose. They're now set up on the tracks. Let me show you the steam locomotive pulling them. Isn't that amazing? The steam locomotive finally has its tender reattached after so much work, and then it's able to pull a boxcar and a light-up caboose. Now this is just childhood dreams.
With my model trains finally working, all 4 of my upscale locomotives at least, I'm glad that I was able to get them working. Now I'm thinking in the next episode we'll probably take a look at one, if not more, of my HO scale model trains so that we can see if they then will run as well. But thank you for watching, and I hope you enjoyed the video. Goodbye!